Welcome to another episode of Next Man Up on Down the Rabbit Hole Media. This is our Week 7 NFL recap show. Chris will host our FaceTime segment, challenging us on all of our favorite teams and the current state of affairs. Where are we going? Are the Bears on the uprising? Are the Giants on the uprising? Are the Patriots on the uprising? We will discuss it tenfold. Additionally, we will have our second segment of the show be an open forum where we discuss all things NFL related, all major topics, all trending topics. It's sure to be a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it all starts now.
Everything you say to me takes me one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. I need a little room to breathe, 'cause I'm one step closer to the edge. I'm about to break. I find the answers aren't so clear. Wish I could find a way to disappear. All these thoughts, they make no sense. I found bliss in ignorance. Nothing seems to
It's not Anthony kicking it off today because we have a little bit of a different format today. I'm going to quiz these three and kind of ask them some brain busters on them because I got nothing new this week. Jets are on a bye. I got to kick back, relax, just enjoy the NFL Sunday that was. But these three are all actually riding high. All three of their teams are coming off of wins. So we're going to give them some brain busters as to what week 7 really held for them. So, Johnny, you were at the Bears game. You saw this firsthand. No Fields, no Herbert, no Roschon Johnson. You got third string running back. You got second string quarterback from a D2 school. Bears still pull off the win. Eberflus has not lost the locker room clearly, but is he actually a good coach, or did he just get lucky running into Josh McDaniels at the right time?
Well, it was the battle of two sucky teams, and clearly the Raiders are just somehow more sucky than the Bears. I don't think Josh McDaniels is a great head coach in this league. I don't think Matt Eberflus is a great head coach in this league. However, I do want to give credit to Matt Eberflus because since week 4, since he has taken over defensive play calling duties, this Bears defense has come out and has come to play. And the Bears, on Sunday, guys, they might have found something in backup quarterback Tyson Bagent. Before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm not here to create a quarterback controversy. We're not quite there yet. But Tyson Bagent, the 23-year-old undrafted rookie out of the University of Shepherd, he did everything that the Bears asked him to do. Manage the game, not turn the ball over, not just be able to execute the Bears game plan, dink and dunk down the field, lean on that heavy rushing attack. The Bears are now 4th in the NFL in overall rushing. They were number 1 last year. So, before we get ahead of ourselves and say we need to see more of 17, we don't need Justin Fields. I'm going to break it down for you this way, guys. Justin is bigger, stronger, faster. He has all the God-given tools necessary to be a really good starting quarterback in this league. For whatever reason, we just haven't seen enough quite yet. But this Bagent kid, his football IQ, I've been telling you guys for weeks now, this kid can play, and he can play at a high level. And we saw on Sunday what he can do against a Raiders team that I think came in kind of flat. But historically and statistically, Davante Adams has owned this Bears franchise throughout his career. The Bears held him to 57 yards through the air. And going to the running game, D'Onta Foreman, I don't believe he should be running back 3 on this team. He should be running back 2 behind Khalil Herbert once Herbert comes back from IR. I mean, what a game from Foreman. 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 on the air. What a game for Foreman. How is he a healthy scratch, guys? He was a healthy scratch for 3 games this season. I mean, I really think number 21 has proved his worth, has proved that he can start for the Bears in this league. And moving forward, I really hope the Bears defense is able to come out, continue to play well, continue to stack back-to-back strong performances. And this Sunday, it's going to be a good test. Sunday night, prime time in LA at SoFi against the Chargers team that has trouble putting opponents away. So can the Bears build off this win? Can they understand how to maintain success? And bottom line, guys, before I pull it back to you, it felt so good to enjoy Victory Monday here in Chicago. It's been over a full year since I could walk around on a Monday at the grocery store with my Bears hat on, smiling ear to ear because they did it. They won. It felt great. Maybe it was a little good luck because I was there. I'm going to be in New Orleans in 2 weeks for the Bears Saints game. That's going to be a tough one, but we'll see. We'll see if they can pull it off. We'll see if they can string again back-to-back performances.
And I know you said you're not getting too much ahead of yourselves. Not saying Bajan's the guy yet, but if he does string wins together, he currently has as many wins this year as Fields does. He has just as many wins as Fields has this year. So if he does string like 3 wins together in Fields' absence, when Fields is healthy, do you throw him back out there? Like, do you have to?
You have to throw Justin Fields out there because, again, going into this season, the number one priority was to be able to develop and see where Justin's at. Are we going to pay him this offseason? Or are we going to commit to Justin Fields past this season? It does no good to put Fields on the bench. We have to see what we have in him, because 2024 NFL draft will be here before you know it. I know April seems a long time away, but as of right now, not only did the Bears win on Sunday, the Bears are winning off the field as well. Carolina is still 0-6, so the Bears still hold that number 1 pick. They need to see what they have in Justin Fields.
And
we won't have a quarterback controversy yet until Fields comes back and doesn't perform up to his standard.
And that being said,
if Tyson Bagent performs like he did on Sunday, then yes, we will have a quarterback controversy. I'm not quite there yet, though.
And that being said, if they do hold that number 1 pick, do they wind up trading it again? Like, do you wind up trading out of that first overall pick if, Fields puts together the end of the season like he did last year? Or do you stay there, you take Caleb Williams, and if Eberflus is gone, I'm going to kind of make this twofold right here. I'm going to give you 2 questions in one. A, if Eberflus is gone, which I think we all kind of believe he probably is gone regardless of what happens down the stretch. If you have that number 1 overall pick, do you trade it away again? If not, do you go with Williams, and what coach do you pair with him? Do you go get Lincoln Riley to keep him and Williams together if Williams is the pick? Or do you go elsewhere? Give me your short list of head coaches that you'd want if Eberflus is gone and what you do with that number 1 overall pick, given the situation with Fields and what goes on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So in regards to the number 1 pick, I think really what is going to set the Bears up for success is where the Bears number 1 pick is going to land. Are we also going to be in the top 5 in accordance with that number 1 pick from Carolina? If so,
which this last week, everyone else that was in the top 5 or 6 all won, so it didn't really impact your draft stock.
And as of right now, the Bears are number 3, just behind Arizona. Arizona's 1-6 on the year. So the Bears hold right now 2 top 5 picks in the upcoming draft. Ryan Poles can put 2 of those together and get a massive overhaul. This team still lacks a lot of roster depth in multiple areas: offensive line, defensive line, secondary. And yes, a lot of people in Chicago believe that the Bears pass on a generational talent in Patrick Mahomes. We interviewed him. We liked him. We told his father, Patrick Mahomes Sr., that he was going to be a Bear. We ultimately moved on and didn't take him. We drafted Mitch Trubisky. I don't know if the Bears can pass on a generational prospect like Caleb Williams again. Moving forward,
Caleb Williams these last few weeks has looked very human. He has not looked great in these last few games. Let's get that out there.
He has, absolutely. But everyone's human. No one's perfect. I'm not expecting Caleb Williams to be perfect. But again, going back to that generational prospect, people talk about John Elway coming out of Stanford. People talked about Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford, and Trevor Lawrence was another one of those guys. And everything we keep reading and keep hearing that Caleb Williams is that once in a generational type prospect. It'd be hard for the Bears franchise to pass on him if they decide to hold on to the number 1 pick. Moving forward, if you were to draft Caleb Williams, could they pair him up with a Lincoln Riley? I think Lincoln Riley has a nice cushy job in LA. I don't know how you're going to be able to pry him from what he's doing in Southern California and bring him to the Midwest, bring him to cold Chicago in the winter. That might be a little tough. On my short list of Bears head coaches,
I mean, money does talk, and if he could stay with Caleb Williams, I think that's the way to get him to go to Chicago, is if him and Caleb Williams stay together. That's my pitch there.
Absolutely, that's something that the Bears really haven't done. They really aren't the team to make quite a splash like that. On the Bears short list of head coaching candidates for next season, I would love the Bears to go out and get Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Look what he's done with that roster. Jared Goff, in my opinion, is not an elite quarterback. He might have elite stats this season, but you want to talk about developing that offense, developing sustained success on multiple drives. Doesn't matter if they're in the dome, they're outside. Look what the Lions have done on offense. I mean, like, what a great offense. And it really starts with their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. If the Bears were to make a splash, it's no secret. He's been tied to the Bears with rumors and speculation for years. Go out and get Jim Harbaugh. He was the Bears' backup quarterback back in the early 90s and the 80s. He has ties to this city. And you want a guy that comes in here and completely changes the culture of this organization. Look what he's done in San Francisco. Look what he's done in Michigan. Can he do it?
Wipe his hands clean of that whole thing going on in Michigan right now, too.
Secretly, and I know this sounds horrible. Secretly, I hope Michigan I hope the NCAA investigation. I hope somehow, some way, he comes up guilty and he does the Pete Carroll, he skips town and he comes back to the NFL. I could see a scenario where that happens. But again, the Bears organization, the Bears brass, they will have to open up their checkbook. They're going to have to make a splash to get Jim Harbaugh to come out of college. But everyone in this city thinks he'd be such a great hire. And it's all about culture. This Bears culture, this organization has done nothing but lose for the last decade. Can a guy like that come in and completely overhaul and change this culture? He's going to want complete control of the roster, though. That's something that, general manager Ryan Poles might not be okay with. So there's a lot of speculation like that. Long season ahead. Let's see what the Bears can do this Sunday against the Chargers. Let's see if Tyson Bagent can have 2 back-to-back performances. It just, again, boys, it feels good to have a win. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I still think Justin Fields is the number 1 quarterback going forward until he's not, until the Boo Birds come out. But again, I'm going to enjoy this week. I don't get a lot of them, so let me have my moment in the sun.
Johnny, best of luck Sunday night. The nation will be watching, unfortunately.
Yes,
but moving over to Nicky. Nicky looks like he's already ready for these questions that I haven't even asked yet. But looking at your background, you already can know that one of these is coming about Mr. Mac Jones. He actually looked good and led a game-winning drive against Buffalo, who's won the division back-to-back years. Was that a sign of who they drafted and things to come, or was it just a flash in the pan of, oh, look, I was actually able to do something and save my job? Do you think that is who Mac Jones is, or do you think that was just a flash that game?
I think it was a little bit of both. And one of the things that I have mentioned a lot this season is the offensive line has been a big detriment to the Patriots' plans for advancing down the field and scoring. This week, with making the move of switching Michael Onwenu from guard to tackle, was a huge thing for the Patriots. That worked out, and they did not allow that much pressure on Mac Jones. He had time to sit in the pocket. He had time to create plays and make his passes. 25 of 30 passes completed for 270 plus yards, 280 plus yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the biggest thing, no interceptions. He was poised. He was calm. He had a great approach to the game, and he led his team. And he had that moment going down the field on that last drive. That was what we've been wanting for 3-4 years now since Tom Brady left us, was a confident, precise game-winning drive to get us that victory. And on all days, of course, National Tight Ends Day, Mike Gesicki gets the game-winning touchdown right there, does the fastest and funniest gritty I've ever seen in my life.
The worst gritty known to man. The worst gritty.
That's a question. He's known for doing the worst gritty. But
and he brought it up himself in the post-game press conference. He said, it's probably the most embarrassing gritty. I'm going to get harassed on social media. It's going to be great.
It's so bad it's good. It's so bad.
It is. The best part, too, is you had one of the linemen, I think David Andrews or Cole Strange, and Mac Jones caught up with him as he was doing his gritty across the end zone to the sideline. So that made it even better with that. But for anyone looking at this right here, this is a Mac Jones apology form. And it's reasons for behavior. Media convinced me he sucked. I didn't realize how bad his OL was. I think the OL line one should be the biggest check mark on this form. I don't watch actual games. I'm a Bills, Jets, or Dolphins fan. Missed when my team was better than the Pats. Was jealous of the Patriots dynasty. And then I will hereby respect McCorkle Jones and will not talk down on the future Hall of Famer. Now, future Hall of Famer aside, has yet to be seen. It has yet to be seen for his career.
There's no saying the Bills are that good because their defense has gotten depleted a little bit. The Jets did beat the Bills week 1. That was when they were pretty much at full strength, but the Bills have looked very, very beaten the last few weeks. The Giants almost beat them last week. They got some shock over in England the week before. So, I mean, yes, they've, the games against the Patriots the last couple of years, sure, the Bills have been better of the teams. That's without
Bills
saying.
are frauds.
But they're definitely on fraud watch at the moment. But
Bills are very suspect this year.
And
very suspect. Bills have been very suspect.
What's also interesting about the win for the Patriots is that, yes, while they're still at the bottom of the AFC East, they have the best divisional record out of everyone in the division. They are currently 2-1 against the AFC East, where everybody else is 1-1 or 1-2. And Patriots defense still has yet to allow 100 yards for a receiver this year. And J.C. Jackson coming back looks like the J.C. Jackson of old, where he shut down Stephon Diggs and the rest of and Jack Jones stepped up too and helped shut down that Bills receiving attack. So defense is still looking great for him.
And, speaking of playing against the division, Patriots do play Miami this week in Miami, and speaking of that defense and J.C. Jackson coming back, you have that dual threat of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle this week. Will J.C. Jackson will they be able to keep that trend going and slow that passing attack down? I mean, they showed they could do it against the offense of the Bills, which is a very high-powered offense. I think we can all agree about that, despite of how fraudulent they may look. But will they be able to continue that against Miami, who has the highest scoring offense in the league?
I think they can do that. I mean, you look back to week 2, Christian Gonzalez alone held Tyreek Hill to 40 yards.
But Christian Gonzalez, game. He's out.
Which he's out,
and also no Matt Judon.
Yeah, no Judon, but I still think that secondary will be able to get that carry that momentum from the Bills game into the second matchup with Miami. Historically, playing in Miami for the Patriots has been tough. It's got to be something about the South Florida heat, I think, but I would
also like to mention that the game in Miami is typically, I feel like, usually like the January or December game. So now you're getting it in October, so it's a little bit less of a temperature change. Granted, it is still a little chilly up in New England right now, but it's less of a drastic change than it usually is. At least that's from my recent memory, from what I can remember.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. They're usually down there towards the tail end of the season for the second matchup. But I think if they can carry that plan from this weekend and also look back to what they did in week 2 and combine that, make any tweaks they have to, I think the defense will do a fine job against Miami's offense. It remains on the other side of the ball for the Patriots. They've got to do the same thing that they did against Buffalo, especially with the line. Keep Onwenu at tackle. I think that was a great move. Keep him there and just do what you can to make sure that offensive line is as solid as possible to not only protect Mac Jones, but also Zeke and Ramondre, which Ramondre Stevenson had himself a really good game. First time in a few weeks he's had a good one.
And the AFC East is definitely, I feel like, becomes wide open if the Patriots do win this week against Miami. The Patriots obviously playing Miami, the only AFC East team not favored in their matchup. The Bills play Thursday. But one more question, Nick, before we go to Anthony and the Giants. Before the game, it came out that Belichick's quietly signed an extension in the offseason. And, there's been a lot of talk about him potentially being on the hot seat, but finding out that he quietly signed it in the offseason, does it really mean anything? Or do you think that Kraft has no problem pulling the plug if things do truly go south and say, you know what, it's time to get some fresh ideas in here?
I think a little bit. On one hand, yes, Bob does have that final say, and I think if it gets to a point where it's not up to what he's expecting from Bill and from the team, then he may go ahead and pull the plug. But on the other hand, I think it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the season too. He wants Belichick to break Don Shula's record, and he wants him to do it in New England. That's one thing. But on the other side of it too is I think this is just a big thing that shows that a lot of the media, especially around here in New England, has just been stirring up a bunch of stuff to talk about things, to try and put things in a different perspective, kind of make a different, interesting conversation for Patriots fans and for the NFL in general of, what's the future of Bill Belichick with New England? And I loved his answer at the end of the game in a post-game press conference where someone asked him about his contract and he said, I don't talk about my contract. I talk about, I'll talk about this game. I'll talk about next week, but that's not for you guys to understand. So really, if it's not for the media or for the rest of us to know, and Bill wants to do his own thing in private, let Bill do his thing. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Nick, for your New England recap and moving and looking forwards. And Anthony, talking about the Giants getting a big divisional win. Tyrod Taylor getting the win for the Giants. Tyrod Taylor getting the win for the Giants. So I'm going to get the obvious question out of the way. Tyrod Taylor gets the win.
Tyrod.
I said Tyrod.
No, you said Tyrod. I'm interrupting you and I'm ruining this.
I said
so everybody knows. Pretty much everybody on Earth says Tyrod Taylor. And
yes,
his name is actually Tyrod.
He said it's actually Tyrod, but he just lets people call him Tyrod because he doesn't care. But that being said, he led them to a win. Is there a controversy in New York, or do you think if Jones is in there, the outcome's pretty much the same or better?
Well, first of all, I think there's zero controversy. I mean, there's going to obviously be a lot of, people who didn't really like Jones to begin with that see us nearly get 2 straight wins. Probably should have been 2 straight wins with Taylor under center. Obviously, Buffalo, 2 instances where you couldn't get a yard, making the difference in the game. But Taylor looked comfortable in this game. He's not turning the ball over. This is what we pay him to do. He gets $14 million a year to be a competent backup so that we never have to live with Mike Glennon coming into a game.
I'd also like to say that I think Taylor's one of the best backups in the league. If you have Taylor as your backup, if your starter goes down, you're probably guaranteed at least, not only just competent play, you're guaranteed to be in the games that he comes in for. Sorry to interrupt you. But.
No, you're good. I will say this. Taylor has a much better winning record career-wise than Daniel Jones ever has. Taylor obviously has done this time and time again where he's kind of won people over, won the job, and made a quarterback controversy. But when your starting quarterback is making $40 million a year, to me, wait till Jones is 110% and then play him. And actually, the reason for the improvement of the offense, and again, we only scored 14 points. Our defense is winning us these games. That's number one. But number two, the reason things are more competent looking is because Pugh on the offensive line, which Jones has never played with, and Phillips also on the offensive line that Jones has never played with. When you're looking at a difference between having 1 second to throw and having 3 seconds to throw, that's what you see. Now, Giants have to find a way to obviously score more points, continue to protect the football, but I think they're building in a way that they should, that a lot of other teams in the league are building, where, hey, our offense is not so hot. Let's focus on the defense. Let's have that be our strong point.
And now I know you alluded to kind of one of these points in there with the offensive line. The offensive line has continually been an issue for this team throughout the season. Injury plagued all over the place. Obviously the offensive tackles going down. Pugh coming off the couch probably has been one of the best offensive linemen since coming off the. Yes. So do you think a lot of the issues have come with the talent level of the offensive lineman, or just the unfamiliarity of these guys playing together and the cohesiveness of the line?
Well, I do think Bobby Johnson should be on a very, very hot seat as offensive line coach. I think a lot of our draft picks, because the Giants continue to invest high draft picks and offensive linemen, tend to come in and maybe not be ready. I'm not giving up on Evan Neal yet. I don't think it's the same thing, that we've seen in the past with Flowers or, God knows who else. Obviously, we signed this big guy. I can't even remember his name. He was terrible. Nate Soldier from New England. Terrible. So it seems like anytime the Giants invest in offensive line, they have problems. However,
Nate Soldier, I will say, was overpaid by the Giants when you guys signed him.
Right. And that's kind of what you have to do when you sign a free agent tackle. But Andrew Thomas, when healthy, we actually know is good. Pugh proving himself, and Phillips proving to be that interchangeable piece. And then maybe you can actually see some improvement from Neal. And then we still might get Schmitz back. So theoretically, this could be a night and day difference by, say, next month for the offensive line.
I got a question for you, Anthony. How much credit do you want to give Wink Martindale over the last couple of weeks? I from what I've seen from the Giants, really seems like this defense has performed well, has come to play. What are your thoughts on him?
I've always loved Wink Martindale. I think he probably could have got a head coaching offer last year, and I'm really glad that he decided to stay. I appreciate his schemes. I appreciate that he doesn't let up. But I think what really needs to be said is Deonte Banks' play at corner for a rookie has been fantastic. He has proven that he can pretty much cover anybody in the league. He owned Terry McLaurin on Sunday, and it was great to see. Not to mention, Trey Hawkins has done pretty well with Adoree Jackson out sideline. So Giants right now need to focus on finding a punt returner that can catch the ball. That's priority number one, and continue to build their offensive line and just hush the Jones haters and get Jones back in there in the rhythm that we've seen him in the past.
And speaking of rhythm, and you mentioned before the Giants are struggling scoring points. They seem that they're able to move the ball at least to the 50, maybe to like the 30 or so. Then they just stall. Why do they keep stalling? Why can't they get that extra? Why can't they get into the red zone? Why can't they punch it in?
Tom Coughlin used to call that area the green zone, and I think the Giants are having problems both in the green zone and the red zone. It's about finishing drives. The Barkley fumble, I'm not going to get on him for that. It was a fluke thing. His butt was nearly on the ground. Guys holding him up, trying to pull it out. I think he knows how to protect the ball when he needs to. He made a mistake. Last week, Taylor made a mistake. So if you're a big Jones supporter, you could say, hey, I don't think Daniel Jones hands that ball off there, and you might actually win that game. But one thing I do want to mention between the difference though between Taylor and Jones is Taylor's actually taking the shots downfield that Jones has been hesitant to pull the trigger on. And I do believe that's because of the protection. So hopefully with improved protection, we can see Jones pull the trigger on that and get Slayton more involved. And I think Hyatt has to be a focal point at least 5 times a game in the offense. This guy has track star speed and looks like he's jogging and he's 5 yards separation. They have to find a way to get him the ball more.
And then I know you mentioned Saquon a little bit, but he said before last week he does not want to be traded at the trade deadline next week. What do you think that means to the Giants? And what do you think that means for him as a player? He's obviously coming off of another injury. Does that mean that he's willing to talk long-term with them? Do you think he's going to walk? Do you think that if they decide, hey, we're going to tag you again because we can, he'd be willing to play on that? What do you think that means for them at the end of the season?
Well, I think Saquon Barkley is the heart and soul of New York Giants football, and I think he has been since he put on the uniform. Very few Giants players can actually interact with fans and yell at them to defend their teammates and have the whole fan base support them, because people were being critical earlier this year when Barkley was out injured. People were critical of Jones in the stands, and he actually turned around and said, "You are not a real fan if you're gonna be given number 8 problems like that. He's my brother," is basically what he said. So I love Saquon Barkley. I wanted to extend him since they made the offer mid-year of last year. Now, is it complicated now? I think there was some awkwardness with Jones getting his big payday and Barkley not. I do think this disrupted the locker room a little bit because Jones, as much as he has improved and naturally with that position is going to get more money, is not the same heart and soul that Barkley is to Giants football. I would extend Barkley at a fair price, whatever the price is for running back. I hope we don't end up in another holdout, but obviously when you pay a running back long-term, it's risky because of the injuries. But with the Giants, you see the night and day difference when he is healthy. I wouldn't want to pay him more than Christian McCaffrey. I'd make him the same exact offer. If I'm Joe Schoen, I'm making him the same exact offer and saying, please sign this. And if he refuses, then I'm tagging him. And that's how I would handle it if I'm Joe Schoen. And if Barkley has a problem with the tag, then it could be his agent or whatever. I hope it doesn't come to that, but that's how I would handle it if I was Joe Schoen.
Yeah, just because, obviously the deadline is a week from today. We're recording this on the 24th. Right. The deadline is Halloween, the 31st.
If you don't trade him and then you don't extend him, you're being stupid. What are you
exactly doing? He says he doesn't want to get traded, and so you got to do something. You're either extending or you're trading him. And if he says he doesn't want to get traded, to me, if I'm the Giants, I'm saying, okay, that means he does want to stay here and he wants to get extended. But you have to be realistic. And once again, he got another injury. So you got to think, okay, well, that might have hurt his value a little bit, but you see what the team is with him and without him. So you got to look at it that way. But, I think that was some good talk about our teams. Me and you have our head-to-head matchup.
Yes.
This
week.
Yes.
That's
I'm
exactly
looking forward to that.
To go.
I think,
Do you think the Giants can possibly beat the Jets? Would it surprise you? Let me ask you that.
I think that the Jets defense is
favored.
Favored. The Jets defensive front is too strong for the way the Giants offensive line has been to
What if
really
they get Andrew Thomas back?
anything going.
Could get Andrew Thomas back.
I still don't think that's really going to make enough of a difference. I think that the Jets do enough with a 4-man front to give enough coverage behind, and the way that the linebackers with Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley are in the middle. I think that the holes in the offensive line for the Giants are going to cause a real problem for whether it's Taylor or Jones at quarterback to really get into a rhythm or get anything going.
I think it's going to be fun. I actually think the Giants and Jets should play every year. I know there are other reasons, as to why they don't do that. But when the Mets play the Yankees every year, it's fun. When the Knicks play the Nets multiple times per year, it's fun. When the Islanders play the Rangers, division rivals, it's always a big deal. I think because the Giants and Jets share a stadium, that's probably, and obviously because they're AFC and the scheduling, that's why they only play once every 4 years. But my personal preference is that we get more games like this. I love that you're overlooking the Giants. It brings me so much joy.
I'm not overlooking. Yeah, I'm just saying that I'm not.
You think we're an easy win? You're looking at our offensive line.
I never said easy win. I'm just saying. I think.
Well, what about Zach Wilson? Let me ask you that. Who the hell is going to protect Wilson from Sexy Dexy?
What I said was that the offensive line versus one of the best defensive fronts in the league with the highest quarterback pressure rate is going to cause problems of getting into any sort of rhythm. I wasn't saying I was overlooking. I'm just saying it's going to cause problems for whoever's in that quarterback.
Not going to be the same offensive line the Seahawks and Cowboys saw.
The Battle of MetLife.
The Snoopy Bowl. Is Snoopy even the logo for MetLife Insurance?
I don't think they are anymore.
He hasn't been the logo for a while.
But they still have the Snoopy
the Snoopy Bowl.
They call it that in the preseason. They still call it the Snoopy Bowl. They at least did for the preseason game. But I think I don't know if they do that for the regular season game or not. But it's always enjoyable.
Fun fact about that: I've actually heard someone say that quote MetLife was going downhill since they got rid of Snoopy, and I find that hilarious.
I think MetLife is exactly where it started, in just gray and empty most of the time, with a lot of opposing fans.
I love Snoopy.
I love Snoopy.
Who doesn't love Snoopy?
Yeah. On that note,
I know that we want to talk about some other things around the league. I know we've had some talk about officiating in the league, and there's just like, once again, in that Eagles-Dolphins Sunday night game, there was a lot of questionable calls or non-calls. Very one-sided game. The umpire in the game, his name
Dwayne Haight
escaping me right now.
But Dwayne Haight.
Dwayne Haight. He's a Pennsylvania native. He grew up 75 miles from Philly. He was suspended by the ACC for showing too much favoritism because he went to South Carolina and was an ACC ref and would call things against Clemson and be very, showing favoritism against.
And for what it's worth,
Clemson.
during the broadcast, they're going, "Wow, this is one-sided officiating." It's not like
said
I'm
one-sided
just a
officiating.
Giants fan.
There was
like
they
there's
didn't
very
call.
Obvious one-sided
Bradbury clearly had a face mask on the sideline. Like, I don't know how they missed that. There were 0 penalty yards assessed against the Eagles the entire game. The only penalty that was called against the Eagles was an offsetting on offensive offsides and defensive offsides on the tush push when
which
it wasn't
they're
even
doing every tush push, by the way.
Which wasn't even an offensive offsides. It was Jason Kelsey's hand. So the center can have 2 hands on the ground.
Okay, well, what they're doing on the tush push that bothers me.
An offensive offside.
These splits, these linemen splits, they're basically making a flying V like the Mighty Ducks, and they're sticking Hurts in there, and Hurts, to give him credit, is a very strong man, and he's able to go underneath. But I don't think there should ever be an unstoppable play in football. And the Eagles now have an unstoppable play. They're going to get rid of it at some point, probably next year. I think
they'll probably have to make adjustments to it.
I'm not sure they're going to get rid of it. Clearly, the NFL.
It's so unfair, Johnny. How do you guarantee a yard? The coach Sirianni went out of his way and said, "Hey, it's 1st and 9 every time we get the ball." I was like, "You arrogant bastard!" That makes me so mad to know how confident you are.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Nick Sirianni is like the perfect Philly head coach.
Yeah.
He's snickering and smirking on the sideline. He's so cocky. Like he's like the perfect for the Philly brand. I don't think the NFL is going to get rid of this play anytime soon. Everyone, clearly the NFL loves the Eagles, loves them on prime time, really enjoys the ratings. Despite what we might think about the ref from the other night, my biggest problem that I'm continuing to have, there is no consistency with all of these pass interference calls, these targeting calls.
There's never been, ever.
There's no consistency,
and I think,
and we're only getting to a time in the NFL season where a lot of these a lot of these calls really mean something and really hurt the opposing team. That clearly is being hurt by those calls. So that's what I want the NFL to fix, not necessarily taking away a play that has, almost 100% success rate. The Eagles can do it because they have the best offensive line. Let them do it. Let them do it until they can stop it. It doesn't bother.
And they're having too much impact on the outcomes of games. You look at the Giants game last week, the pass interference that wasn't called on Waller in the end zone on the last play of the game. You look at the Jets against the Chiefs, the ghost call that was called on Sauce that gave the Chiefs the ball for even longer, didn't give the Jets a chance. You look at all these games that are being drastically impacted by calls or non-calls. It's just like there has to be consistency. I mean, I know they tested challenging the pass interference a few years ago, but there should be some sort of, they can check with New York for overturning yardage and stuff like that. They should be able to check with New York on penalties too with replay. Like it shouldn't it shouldn't have to be a coach's challenge or something. But if they can check with New York for scoring and turnovers,
right?
And stuff like that, they should be able to check with New York.
They would screw that up, like Chris. I think they would screw that up.
They screw up everything. I'm not saying they wouldn't be able to screw it up.
I know what you're saying,
but there has to be something.
But the thing is, just be consistent. You can't live in a world where they get every single pass interference call correctly. It won't happen. So just give me even officiating for both teams. Think of it as like a strike zone. All right, you're going to call an outside strike the entire game. You got to give it to both teams. If you're going to call Darren Waller being grabbed with one hand a penalty on one play, and then literally the next play, the same exact thing, not call it, it makes no sense. I just want to see consistency.
But I think the idea of bringing back challenging penalties could help with that consistency, at least establishing some sort of consistency. When they first did that,
but I remember they threw challenges and none of them got overturned. Like none.
Only one pass interference penalty got overturned.
It was never real.
What I'll say for that though is that if you want to look at something that has a good record of challenging pass interferences and seeing the outcome either overturned or you look at it like,
if you say the CFL, I'm going to drive up to Rhode Island and smack you.
That's pretty much it. But I mean, it can help. It does, and that can help. I think that could help with those moments. It does. It can take those moments that could negatively impact the game on a terribly missed call, something like that, and all of a sudden they see that and go, oh yeah, but it's actually, this is it. And then that turns the fortune around and keeps that momentum going for that team on that drive. It could help with stabilizing the lack of consistency in the officiating.
I just wish the NFL would take more of like the NCAA approach and like just let them play. Let these athletes play and let the athletes dictate what's a pass interference and what's not, what's a catchable ball and what's not. I mean, we got robbed of an amazing Super Bowl. I mean, it was an amazing Super Bowl, but the league, the NFL officiating that game, the Super Bowl, this past Super Bowl, that was a phenomenal game because they just let the guys play up until that very last moment with the James.
It's a lose-lose scenario, Johnny. They call it, they lose. They don't call it, they lose.
It is, but just let these athletes play, like,
and then
let the game dictate what's going to naturally happen. That's the easiest way I would go about this, but.
And going back to the tush push too, I mean, if the Eagles are going to have the most success about it, and why shouldn't every team in the NFL try and
because they're doing something
copy
different,
that,
Nicky? They're doing it different.
But it's different. But they can still try and make it their own in some way, shape, or form. But if you got to try and have some sort of success on the defensive side against that.
You know what? They're not the
study
Eagles
as much
anymore.
film as you can. Try and do something with it.
They're the Ducks.
Try and just work to try and overcome that and get better at it, or follow the line and do it yourself.
All right, but kind of taking it from the officiating going off of the Dolphins and Eagles, but like talking about the Dolphins, they're a team that they've been so good, but they've really fallen down a little bit. They haven't beaten a team with a winning record. They have picked on lesser teams, a lot. You think about it, the teams that were good, you look at the teams just from this last week, the Dolphins, the Niners, the Lions, those are three teams that we've been talking about week in and week out, leading the league, and
back-to-back losses for the Niners.
Back-to-back losses for the Niners. The Lions got completely dismantled by the Ravens,
who I was now have to be the talk of the town in Baltimore, right?
So I mean, team. Looking at those teams, what is it for those teams? Like, are those teams on a downward trajectory? Will they right the ship? Are they gonna fall off? Or
I don't know,
Johnny.
Listen.
I'm sure you love seeing the Lions get dismantled, being in the NFC North.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Chris. As a Bears fan, I don't have any hatred towards the Lions. Yes,
just because they've been so bad for so
they've
long.
been so bad. And they have a really good fan base. They've had a fan base that is stuck loyal through thick and thin for so many years. So, in a weird way, a lot of Chicagoans are kind of happy to see the Lions, pulling away with the NFC North, as long as it's not Green Bay or Minnesota. I will tip my cap to Minnesota last night. That was quite a performance last night against the Niners. And speaking of the Niners, I'm not worried about San Francisco. The Lions, on the other hand, though, I am a little concerned with. Mm-hmm. You got a Ravens team that's coming back from London, and the stats and historically, according to a lot of experts, jet lag.
Yeah, usually when teams come back from London, they suck. And you look at the Bills; they came back from London, and the game against the Giants, they looked very sluggish.
So no Montgomery for the Lions is a big problem. I think
it was just surprising to see Detroit kind of lay an egg. A lot of experts also refer to Jared Goff's splits when he's indoors in the dome versus when he's outdoors on the road as an outdoor quarterback. His splits and his stats are not the same. So, and also with Miami, I think Miami is just like a team living in the Matrix. Yes, they are exceptionally talented. They have arguably the best offense in the NFL.
Oh, Miami also just got announced for in-season Hard Knocks too. Get to look at the inside of Mike McDaniel's mind.
And I think the NFL did a great job picking them to be the in-season, Hard Knocks team. Mm-hmm. I mean, want to talk about how entertaining some of the characters are on that team, their players and their head coach, Mike McDaniel. But with Miami, I can't get a good read on them. I feel like they're a team living in the Matrix.
You know what it is, guys? I think we're seeing more parity in the league, and which is what the league wants. First of all, this is what always happens, right? I mean, let's use the example of the New York Giants, who a lot of you would say they stink, and I'm not going to argue with or against you. I'm just going to look at who they've played, okay? Dallas, who we know they're very good, but perhaps not insanely good like we originally thought. Miami, they lost to Miami, who 1 week is scoring 70 points. Next week is struggling against a Philly team, which, let's be honest, the Eagles were not going to lose back-to-back games. We could talk about the refs all we want, but the Eagles were not going to lose that game. And I just think that there's going to be natural fluctuations throughout the season. Everybody's getting injured now. You have the bye weeks to consider. If the Giants can find a way to beat the Jets and the Raiders, which would anybody be really shocked if those things happen? I think the Jets would be a tougher victory, of course. But, I mean, for the Giants to get out, let's say if the Giants do beat the Jets, let's say they got after Zach Wilson. Would we really be surprised by that? Not entirely, especially because there's more excitement surrounding the New York Snoopy Bowl. So then you could blink and the Giants could be playing the Cowboys again to be back to 500. And there are a lot of teams like this where maybe they got beat up in the beginning of the season, and now you're like, oh, they're not exactly a layup. The Bills are a great example of possibly being on the way down, where everybody thought they were really hot stuff. And what a shocking win for the Jets in week 1. Well, it's not that shocking if you've seen how the Bills have been playing.
Well, the Bills were at full strength week 1. They had, all their top talent week 1.
The Bills are overrated from the start, is what I'm trying to say.
The Bills are the kings. I think I'd classify the Bills as kings of playing to their competition. They play up to their competition. They play down to their competition. They're going to kind of be in every single game, but they're not really going to put themselves over the edge to really
East is completely up for grabs.
Well, it sounds like a better version of how the Red Sox played this year. So except they just kept playing down a lot. So.
But yeah, Johnny, I'm with you. I'm not worried about the Niners per se. They didn't have Trent Williams last night. Obviously, Debo's kind of week to week with that hairline fracture in his shoulder.
I'm not worried about Purdy either. People are starting to criticize him. I think
I'm not worried about Purdy, but McCaffrey fumbled yesterday, but Purdy also, he also didn't look spectacular last night. He did have some costly turnovers.
On the receiver, just throwing that out there. But
he did have a costly turnover last night. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they once again, they looked human. They didn't look like the best team in the league like they had in the past. I mean, who would you guys classify as the best team in the league right now? I really,
it changes from week to week. Right now, I'm going Baltimore.
Like Baltimore, their offense finally clicked. They hadn't really been scoring, and finally the offense clicked. We've been waiting for the offense of Baltimore to click. They finally had their number one receiver that they drafted,
big
Zay
win
Flowers,
to smack Detroit like that. It's a big win.
And he finally looks like the number one receiver that they drafted. Lamar Jackson's finally looking like that, player that they paid. So, you have these guys that are finally clicking. You have the offense is finally clicking. The defense looked like it was finally clicking. So Baltimore, I picked them. I picked them in the beginning of the season to really make some noise. So
right now you're looking at the Ravens, the Chiefs, or the Eagles. That's what you have to say right now. And it could change next week, but that's what I think.
And then you look at a team like the Browns, who have one of the best defenses in the league. Myles Garrett is a terrifying defensive player. He's
doing better than Parsons. He's the new defensive player.
Did you guys watch the game Did you guys watch the game on Sunday though? They let up
just toys with
points to Gardner Minshew and the Colts.
So what? That's Gardner Minshew. He's not bad.
Well, I saw the end of the game. The end of the game, like they just I don't know once again, back to officiating. What the hell were the officials calling?
I was gonna say, that was another game where they had some controversy on that last drive that Cleveland ultimately wound up winning.
Close. Any game that's close. There's something you're gonna say, a ref.
I am so shocked and just bewildered because I had the under 41 in the Browns Colts game. I thought that was a lock. And boy, did I take that one on the chin. Yeah. I want to talk about a team that I can't quite wrap my head around. I want to hear your guys' thoughts of them because I just cannot figure them out. Who the hell are these Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, what is going on with the Steelers?
They're Mike Tomlin, man. Mike Tomlin does this every year.
Mike Tomlin does every year.
They come off a bye and they win. This is what they come
off a bye and they win. They are the best team off the bye. Never bet against Pittsburgh off a bye.
Mike Tomlin is the king of never finishing below 500. Right. And that's what they do. But even when they're playing at a 500 level, they still have some really good moments and some good things to show on the field for both sides of the ball. So
I think
it's a very consistent model.
I think of the Steelers a lot like the Bills. They play up to their competition. You know what I mean? Like, if they're playing a bad team, they're going to do bad. Like a good team, they're going to do good. Is vice versa. Sorry.
I also don't think the Rams are that good. I think the Rams they had their moment in the sun.
Rams are on the up. No, I'll disagree with you there. Rams are on the rise. They
just lost. They just lost back-to-back weeks.
So what? Stafford.
The Rams have not been good this year and last year. I don't buy the Rams as being a team that can make some noise in their division. They've gone on the decline since they've won the Super Bowl when they brought in Matt Stafford halfway through that year.
I'm not giving up on the Rams, dude. I'm not giving up on the Rams. They have too much receivers.
That was a big loss for them.
Dude, they're 3-4. They're 2 games out of first place at 3-4. How could you completely write them off?
I'm not
saying I'm writing them off, but I don't buy them as a.
I like them better than the Seahawks.
Some people think they are.
I like them better than the Seahawks because I'll take Stafford over Geno Smith any day of the week. You were going to say something, Johnny?
Yeah, just going back to the Steelers really quick. I don't understand how they're at 4-2 this year. They've only scored 103 points. That's tied for 4th worst in the league, just ahead of the Bucks, the Patriots, the Bengals, and I'm sorry, Anthony, your New York Giants.
Because they have TJ Watt, and he will make 1 or 2 plays every game that completely shifts the tide of the game. That's what happens.
I can't get a read on him. And yes, you can't fade Mike Tomlin, one of the best head coaches in the league. Clearly,
we'll do whatever it takes to win.
I'm kind of with Anthony though on the Rams. I'm not saying that they're going to make a playoff push by any means, but don't write them off.
I'm saying they are. I said this last week with the Vikings. Everyone laughed at me, and then look what they did against the 49ers. And no one really laughed at me, but whatever. I said the Vikings
have been competitive in almost every game this year. So I'm kind of with Anthony. I'm not going to write the Rams off.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be. Here's the thing. What I was just saying was that there's going to be teams that appear subpar, fading that you're going to blink in 2-3 weeks. All of a sudden, they're the favorites. Let's look at the standings for real. The Cardinals are tanking. The Panthers are tanking. And after that, is there another team that's the Broncos are tanking and the Titans? After that,
Broncos won.
I know they won, but the way they're coaching seems to me like they're not interested in a win now situation. They you know what I'm saying? Like Sean Payton, I talked about it last week. He's treating his running back room like a JV football team. So
they don't have enough talent on that roster to compete. I think that's the biggest problem.
And
with Denver.
Peyton is like, I didn't sign Russ. I don't want Russ. I'll deal with him, but get him out. That's what's going on in Denver right now. But in any way, like you see the trade the Titans made, which again, we're just giving away amazing players to the Eagles for no cost. It's ridiculous, and it makes me mad. If you get a call from Howie Roseman, whatever the hell his name is from Philly, hang up. Like don't even take the call.
Is he like sliding Tennessee like under the table? Like just
I don't get it.
just
AJ Brown for nothing. Baird for nothing. Give me a break. That's how I know the Titans are tanking. So, and they'll trade Derrick Henry too.
I think Kevin Byard, the safety from the Titans, going to the Eagles. I think Kevin Byard is arguably one of the most underrated players in this whole league when he's fully healthy. I mean, he's a guy that goes under the radar. In my opinion, he's a top 5 safety in this league when he's fully healthy. And the Eagles just got a stud for what you just said, Anthony, like pretty much for nothing. Chris, we have a separate group text that we go back and forth. We're always talking about, like maybe the Eagles and the Titans, maybe they have this trade chemistry, this relationship. For a while, the Bears had a decent relationship with the Eagles. The Bears have sent Robert Quinn to the Eagles in the past. They've sent a couple players to that Philly organization. Maybe Howie Roseman is just the best general manager there is in football. I mean, who really knows at this point? But the Eagles got a stud, and clearly they're all in it to win it again this season.
How does a team constantly make trades every single year and never actually have any repercussions? Like they're never suffering for these trades.
You know
ever.
what? Let me tell you something. Joe Douglas, GM of the Jets, came over from the Eagles. He made some fantastic trades, fleecing other teams. So he learned it from somewhere. So Howie Roseman just knows what he's doing.
I just think that some of these teams that are so desperate to sell, like obviously you mentioned the Jets, Jamal Adams, that's got to be the first name we think of there.
That's the one I think of every time.
Right.
Jamal Adams got 3 first-round picks for Jamal Adams, which turned 2 first-round picks, which turned into Elijah Vera Tucker, Garrett Wilson. And
yes, we know the Jets won the deal,
just like won it big time. But
I'm just saying, when these teams are looking to sell, they'll take anything. And are they just the first ones calling? Like, do something if you want to win.
Kevin Byard, I remember he was talked about in the offseason as someone that teams were going to be interested in. He said, I don't want to be traded. I want to stay here. I don't blah, 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 blah. But he also felt disrespected by the Titans because they were even listening to offers and stuff like that. And then here he is going to the Eagles. And he's, as John said, he's probably a top 5 safety in the league. They traded, a 5th round, a 6th round, and one of the Edmonds
no-name
brothers.
Loser.
It wasn't a no-name. It was Terrell Edmonds. I mean, Terrell Edmonds, he's a name, but like he's not done anything really of note lately. But
that's what I mean.
But why is Tennessee agreeing to that deal? Was there something that we don't know about Byard? Does Roseman know something about Tennessee that we don't know?
They don't. I'll answer your question for you. The AFC doesn't care if the Eagles go win the Super Bowl. They'll blatantly screw every other team in the NFC.
The Titans should care about what they're getting. They should know.
They're looking at it as we're getting something for nothing because they're going to lose him at the end of the season anyway. So that's how they look at it. I don't like it.
And let's stick with the Titans now. I mean, you're selling away. Kevin Byard, one of your cornerstone franchise players for several years down there in Nashville. Do the Titans? Do they move Henry before the deadline?
Absolutely. It's in the works right now. It's a fire sale in Tennessee, Johnny. You want Henry? Pick up the phone. He'll be wearing green by the end of the week. Like Philadelphia green, I guarantee you.
For a 7th round pick and a bag of Skittles.
Yeah.
Right? And a gift card to
that they'll end up sending to Marshawn Lynch.
I mean, I've seen rumors about Henry getting moved to Philly. Not gonna lie, it would make some sense.
Makes perfect sense. Of course, they're gonna do it.
I mean, the Titans are not going to pay Derrick Henry, who unfortunately is on the wrong side of 30. His body has been beaten up over the years. Think about how many carries and rushing yards has been on that massive man. But
how many people he's destroyed along the way.
Exactly. But where we are in this league, you don't pay running backs after the years of 30, even if you are Derrick Henry. So I feel like the Titans should move him before the deadline. I mean, you get rid of Byard. Titans are going nowhere. Get something for him now, instead of letting him walk for nothing.
But who is it that's going to call? Who is looking for the running back though? Like who is looking for a running back right now? Is Buffalo going to look for him to pair with James Cook? Maybe. I
think we already said it. The Eagles will pair him it's
I
perfect.
mean, the Eagles seem. DeAndre Swift has looked very good with.
I'm not saying
the
he's
Eagles.
looked bad.
He's
I'm
looked
just saying
very good.
if it's at a similar cost that they got Baird, it doesn't matter who they have because they'll just add him into the room and they'll put him as part of the rotation. I'm not guaranteeing he goes to the Eagles, but I'm just making a joke. They should look.
Go
The
to
Titans should
maybe the
look to move him.
Rams.
A team that would make sense, but I'm not sure how much capital they have with the Deshaun Watson trade. A team that makes sense is the Cleveland Browns. They need a running back. I think Ford
just got hurt.
I think Ford's filled in admirably, for Kareem Hunt or not Kareem Hunt. Sorry,
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. Sorry, thank you. But
they brought back Hunt as well.
Yes, they have.
He scored 2 touchdowns this past weekend.
Yeah, really quick before we sign off, guys, I want to talk about a team, another team that again, I don't think they're flying under the radar, but maybe they're not getting enough love as they should. What are your guys' thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars? Obviously, they play in the most forgotten division in all of football. No one truly cares about the AFC South, but is this team for real?
Well, you want to talk about a running back you should pay Etienne. That guy is one of the few every down backs left in the league, and he's dominating. And Trevor Lawrence is exactly who we thought he was. It's nice when a number 1 pick actually turns out to be what you thought he was supposed to be. So Jaguars are for real. Could be in the conversation for going to the AFC.
You got to give credit to Doug Peterson coming in last year as the head coach and really turning that team around. He's done a great job with them. He has tremendous amount of respect from the locker room, and I think what he preaches to them, the message that he conveys to them, it shows on the field and what they do on both sides of the ball. There's some times where you have some teams that they're matched up against, and you think that, that this other team's going to do better than that, but it's not the same Jaguars as they were 2 years ago. They're no longer pushovers. They're showing that
no doubt,
they mean some business. Last
question for you guys, and this is a biggie. This is very serious. And Chris, I'm going to ask you, since you did such a wonderful job hosting today. This Brittany Mahomes Taylor Swift handshake. Is it legit?
No, we're not talking about them. We're staying away.
We are. We'll
take the Al Michaels approach.
We're not TMZ.
Al Michaels is in a drunken stupor. He's sleeping through the game. Who cares what he thinks? I'm sorry. I mean, let me back.
I'm not talking about Taylor Swift.
All right. We're not talking about Taylor Swift.
But
what we are talking about is Al Michaels, number 1. And I didn't mean to insult the man's legacy. He obviously is just not able to do it anymore. He's had a great run. We'll always remember the 1980 Olympics, but I mean, it's time to hang it up. Amazon gave him a good payday.
I think Al Michaels needs to eat his vegetables. Is what I think.
Is it really true that he's never eaten a vegetable? I read that.
He's on record saying he's never had a vegetable. What? I think it was just really weird. It was a bizarre call.
He could use some carrots for vitamin A. He could see the field better because he's clearly missing something.
Credit to him for being, arguably one of the best broadcasters of all time and doing it still at a high level. Although, let's bring it back down. He probably should hang it up pretty soon here, especially when Chris Olave caught a great pass over the middle for the Saints, took it to the house, and Al Michaels somewhere.
This was Kirk on the Jaguars. This was that play where Kirk went 48 yards, walked in untouched. They're celebrating on the field. He's like, all right, it's going to be down at the 1 here. And I'm like, no.
He's out at the 1 yard line. And everyone's like,
I think he's been overdue to retire and hang him up.
Yeah, he had a good run. He had a good run.
Pairing him on Amazon with Kirk Herbstreit, not the best combo at all, really.
They'll make a change after this year.
Absolutely.
To answer your question, I think that, it's kind of one of those where, they're going to have to, if that's where they're going to be, they're going to have to be friends because it's almost
cameras on them. Cameras
on them. They're going to have to be. But it does look like they're actually genuinely enjoying each other's company.
I think so, right? I like Brittany Mahomes. I just want to say it. I want to get it out there. She's a supportive wife. She's an athlete, and she's embracing supporting the Chiefs every single week. What's wrong with that?
And Brittany has also dialed back her over-the-top behavior significantly since last year. Well, it's how pouring champagne on fans being as obnoxious as possible.
Screw them for
and
not
everything.
liking it. It's a big win. I would want champagne poured on me. I'm on Mahomes.
No,
Brittany Mahomes.
I think the biggest thing we could take away from the Taylor Swift saga is the fact that we don't have to see or hear about Jackson Mahomes, the younger brother.
Which is the best thing.
That's the best thing.
But Jackson was getting in on the handshake on Sunday.
No,
well, and of
we
course,
can't-
the camera
we can't have
doesn't
him
film
there.
that.
We can't show
Camera
him
doesn't
any
film
attention.
that. So that's why
Real-
maybe it is real. Maybe it's not.
Real
All right,
quick,
guys.
just-
this was
Anyway,
Just a quick plug. If you guys haven't read, you can't make this up. The autobiography of Al Michaels, one of my favorite books. I've read.
We
in
love
the
you,
last
Al. We
decade.
have no animosity
This
towards
is
Al.
a
one bit.
phenomenal book. Highly recommend it, guys. If you're looking for a new read, I read this on a flight several years ago. I've read
Do
it
you
a couple
believe in
times.
miracles?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. This has been fun.
thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun. And until next time, let's see who's happy next week, me or Tony, on this one.
Go G-Man. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Next Man Up on Down the Rabbit Hole Media. We really appreciate your support. If you're able to subscribe or follow us on YouTube and Spotify, we sincerely thank you from the bottom of our hearts. All of our shows and all of our updates with all of our links can be found on www.dtrabbithole.com. Thanks again for listening, and as always, be well.